We'll continue with our discussion on HVDC schemes, and we are going to discuss in this video the a sort of a revision to the basic converter operation. Uh, a HVDC scheme uses three-phase bridge converters at the rectifier as well as at the inverter end. It's a 12 pulse operation, as we have understood earlier. And in order to have a clarity, we are just going to revise some basic ideas about the converter operation related to the DC voltage output and it dependence of this voltage on the firing angle, delay angle, and extinction angle, and all those concepts. Okay, we learned these concepts in the power electronics at the earlier semesters. But of course, we require revisiting them here in order to have clarity and better understanding. Kindly take a look at the waveform shown on the left hand side of this particular slide. Okay, so the left hand side, the waveform is visible. This is actually a maybe a window of waveform available at the output of a rectifier. Okay, output of a rectifier is a three-phase rectifier, and these overlapping, these dotted characteristics, they indicate the line voltages crossover points. Okay, and later on this will be available across the DC output. So the dark portion of this characteristics, this is actually the output voltage, DC output voltage, and due to the firing angle delay and maybe the source inductance, uh, this kind of pattern will emerge. This kind of pattern will emerge on the output waveform, right? And here we may consider, right? So averaging of the two line voltages will take place uh, mainly due to the commutation overlap. So we are going to check. Similarly, you can see at the bottom the DC current waveform. This indicates the that phase R and thyristor 1 is in conduction, and it will be transferring the current to thyristor 3, okay, connected in a three-phase bridge connected to YF. Okay, so transfer of current from thyristor 1 to thyristor 3. So generally in the three-phase bridge, if you remember, so the numbering pattern of three-phase bridge is that there are three legs of thyristors, right? The top layer of thyristors is numbered as 135, and the bottom layer is as a 462. So at any point of time, in the absence of commutation overlap, only two thyristors conduct. But whenever there is a commutation overlap, so due to the source inductance on the AC side, right? So that leads to the overlap. So this particular overlap is also indicated here. That is very common, and inductance is inherently present in all AC networks. As a consequence, so transfer of current from one thyristor pair to another thyristor, or maybe the outgoing thyristor 1 will transfer current to thyristor 3, and for some time both of them will conduct, leading to a reduction in the average output voltage due to commutation overlap. So commutation overlap is represented as a standard notation by angle mu. Okay. Then firing angle, of course, we all know the firing delay alpha. So generally minimum firing delay for stable operation of converter lies in the range of 2 to 5 degrees. Okay, electrical angle, right? Then kindly focus your attention. The DC output voltage available at the rectifier end can be represented by a standard equation. Okay, so down at the bottom, this is the equation. VDC or VD is equal to 3 root 3 Vm upon 2 pi cos of alpha plus cos of alpha plus mu. We can clearly see DC voltage depends upon firing angle and commutation overlap, and so also it depends upon the peak phase voltage of the AC side. Okay. Uh, Similarly, on the right hand side of the this particular slide, you can observe that there is a waveform indicated with respect to the inverter mode operation. When the three-phase bridge is operating as an inverter, maybe at the substation 2 or the receiving end of the HVDC line, at that point we can clearly see that the output voltage will be uh, like this. The dark portion indicates the output voltage, and here again we can observe that there will be the effect of commutation overlap, right? And instead of firing angle, now there is extinction angle. The extinction angle is governed by the minimum time required for a thyristor to switch over the current from one point to another, as in case of inverter mode generally. So for inverter mode operation, the extinction angle holds more relevance as far as the stable inverter operation is concerned. The DC output voltage for the inverter can be represented as VDC is equal to 3 root 3 V upon 2 pi cos of beta, right? Cos of beta, and then plus cos of beta minus mu. Okay. So you can clearly see this beta is the sum of the angles, commutation overlap and extinction angle, right? So it is sum of these two particular angles. So we have to realize how the rectifier works and how the inverter works before we really take up the detailed HVDC converter control characteristics and other parameters, and similarly reactive power compensation and the effect of these various angles on the reactive power requirement of the HVDC system, because we know HVDC scheme requires a large amount of reactive power for stable operation of converter. That's why these equations need to revisit. Okay. Now quickly we will go through the basic definitions of what are all these angles and what are their significance, how they are correlated. So let us move to the next slide. Okay. So here we can observe carefully the firing angle or delay angle. Generally, this is the place you can see the time expressed in electrical degrees from the zero crossing of sinusoidal commutating voltage to the instant flow of forward current. When the thyristor start conduction, okay, that is where the delay angle has been represented as alpha. Then angle of advance at the inverter end, this is the time expressed again in electrical degrees, measured from the instant of current zero to the zero crossing of sinusoidal commutating voltage. Because you see inverter, generally the inverter we have the firing angle is set to such a value that we get a negative voltage at the output usually, so very close to 180 degrees. Okay. Consequently, the zero crossing, right, or current zero matters for the inverter operation. So that is called as the angle of advance beta. Alpha is a delay angle or firing angle. Then next is the angle of overlap, right? During which two consecutive converter arms, right? Thyristor 1, thyristor 3, two different arms. From one, maybe the top layer, two thyristors will conduct simultaneously. Otherwise, in the stable operation, if there is no source inductance, a pair of thyristor, one from top layer and one from bottom layer, and connected to two different legs, they conduct at a particular time for 60 degrees also. Okay. So commutation overlap, it is mainly due to the source inductance. And lastly, we have the extinction angle. So very important as far as the time required for thyristor to turn off. This governs the reactive power requirement as well. This governs the stability of operation as far as the inverter circuit is concerned. Okay. Then finally, we have to remember how the various equations are related right here. Okay. Just let us focus attention down at the bottom. Extinction angle can be expressed in terms of angle of advance and commutation overlap. as gamma is equal to beta minus mu, and similarly we can correlate uh, alpha and beta like this, that is angle of firing delay is equal to pi minus angle of advance. Okay, so this relationship you have to remember very well, right? Here also it is highlighted in the second point, beta is equal to alpha minus pi. Just a matter of revision, and it will be helpful for us to solve the problems and understand the control strategies at a later stage, right? Let us try out these equations in the form of some numerical examples, right? So first question that is to be solved uh, is where there is a bridge rectifier that is fed from 15.6 oblique 220 kV transformer, and we have to determine the output DC voltage for combinations of commutation angle equal to 15 degrees and delay angle. There are two different values, that is 0 degree and 30 degrees. So just to check what is the effect of delay angle on the DC output voltage, and of course 0 degree is an ideal value of delay angle. Thyristor will always have certain minimum delay angle of 2 to 5 degrees, and finally we have to comment on the effect of delay angle. Okay, so let us solve this problem. Now this is the second question. Here there is a bridge rectifier suggested with operating with a delay angle of 30 degrees and a commutation angle of 15 degrees. We have to determine the AC side voltage, that is a rectifier transformer voltage, which is normally rated at 15.6 oblique 220 kV, and this time the DC voltage is specified. Okay, the DC voltage has been specified, and we are supposed to determine the tap ratio for this transformer. How much is the voltage required, and then also we have to find out what is the tap ratio, and assuming that there is a star connected secondary. So this 15.6 oblique 220 kV transformer, so 220 kV is connected in the star. Okay, and these values, these are the suggested answers. Let us try to solve this example and verify whether the results indicated here they are correct and they can be completed. Okay. Now we come to the very important topic as far as the HVDC operation is concerned. It is about earth electrode and earth return. Earth electrode and earth return, right? I have been telling you during the study of different types of HVDC schemes that the HVDC has a unique feature. It has a better reliability as compared to three-phase systems or AC system, three-phase AC networks, which cannot operate with two phases in case of fault on one of the phases. The whole line has to be disconnected and power will be interrupted, right? But in case of bipolar HVDC link, there is a possibility that if there is a fault on one of the poles, maybe positive pole or negative pole, positive line or maybe negative line, in that case the control strategy, the converter control strategy and the mechanism is such that it is possible to use ground as a return path, for enabling the uninterrupted power flow over the transmission line with using ground as a return for extended period of operation. This we have discussed earlier, and this is a remarkable advantage as far as the DC current flow is concerned. And by that time, the repair and maintenance takes place, the line can be restored, and the operation can be uniquely conducted. Nowadays, there are metallic transfer breakers also being used in case the converter is removed for maintenance. The transmission line can be used as a metallic return. So that is a metallic transfer return breaker. Those are also practiced. Okay. So
Let us so how the ground current flows, that we would like to understand. So that idea will be communicated through this particular topic, earth electrode and earth return, right? So it is studied and analyzed that actually the earth provides low resistance, uh, reliable and low loss, inexpensive return path for the DC current. Please remember, for the DC currents, this is a low resistance, low loss, reliable and inexpensive return path. And it is used universally for monopolar and bipolar HVDC transmission systems. It is used universally for monopolar and bipolar HVDC transmission system. While we would like to transfer the current in case of fault to the ground, so we must know whether ground is capable of carrying a DC current or not. So several studies and experiments have proved that earth provides low resistance path, and it can be used for in case of monopolar and bipolar HVDC transmission system. Right. Now, next we come across the point that if we are going to use earth as a conduction path, right, earth surface or the earth layer as a conduction part, uh, will it affect uh, the power system? Will it affect the power system or the earth surface or the nearby objects? Okay, what is its impact on the other elements? We are carrying current, but are there some disadvantages associated with the direct current flowing through the earth? So various points are mentioned here. First one, right? First one is the corrosion of buried metallic items. So this is a typical problem observed with respect to the flow of current through the earth for an extended period of time, right? So various metallic objects may be present below the earth surface. There may be pipelines, cables, okay, fences, or maybe some structure inside, okay, underground tanks and other things. This is mainly due to the electrolytic action that takes place due to the flow of direct current from one end to another through the earth surface or through the earth ground. Okay. So this is first of the problems. Next is that it is observed that it creates disturbance in the nearby communication networks due to the flow of current through the ground. If there are some metallic pipes or rails crossing this particular path of earth current, then they get induced pulses, strain of pulses, okay, across them, and these are high frequency and they match with the communication network frequency and cause communication disturbance. It may be in the form of broadband noise, okay. But of course, this is an undesirable effect of flow of current. So how this can be minimized and what are the impacts that we have to analyze. Uh, in some case, the flow of current is also taking place in the form of C electrodes. Okay, in the form of C electrodes, wherever the current is to be sent from one end to another through a section of a C, right, over a long distance. So C electrodes, it may be hazardous, may prove to be shock to the marine life and also the people who come in contact with the seashore. Okay, so that is a cause of concern, that if current is flowing through electrodes which are installed close to the sea, keeping in mind the advantage of moisture present and maybe transfer of current from one island to another. In that case, this has to be observed. And lastly, the disadvantage that is observed is that rapid consumption of electrode material. Earth electrodes, if they are installed for carrying current, DC current for a longer period of time, then it is observed that due to the electrolytic action, the electrode material will get consumed over a period of time, and this causes maintenance cost. It will increase the maintenance cost. The replacement of the earth electrode has to be done, and in the meantime there has to be a backup that such that the power supply is unaffected in case of unexpected fault during the maintenance period, right? So these are the various problems that have been that has to be considered while going for use of earth electrode and its use in the HVDC transmission. Let us now move ahead to the next slide and look at some of the remedial measures as we have listed the problems, right? How these problems can be minimized. So the remedial measures, we know that it offers advantage of increasing reliability of power transfer in HVDC scheme, but there are some disadvantages like corrosion, communication interference, right, consumption of material and so on. But is it possible to minimize these disadvantages or these problems? Yes, it is possible. So how to minimize this? So generally the very first thing is that for corrosion can be minimized by installing earth electrodes far away from the main terminal substation. So generally nearly 5 to 10 kilometers away from the main substation. Earth electrodes are installed far away, 5 to 10 kilometers away from the main substation, where there is no metallic object, no structure, no substation part. Okay, so that corrosion can be minimized. That's the one thing, right? Then second is the fact that the earth electrodes are selected and installed in such a place that there is a low earth resistivity, right? Low earth resistivity, and there are no buried metallic objects. No buried metallic objects like pipelines, cables, and nearby, right? The low location of earth electrodes, although it is installed away from the substation, so substation is protected. But when we install it away, we have to check that there are no other things not related to the substation, but it may be belonging to some civilians. Maybe some pipelines are there, some cables. So mapping has to be done. Mapping has to be done in order to and earth electrode location, it is to be installed far away, but we have to ensure that earth resistivity is to be checked for installing, because we would like to make current to flow through the earth, and it has to have low earth resistivity, right? Then next, the electrodes are designed such that at the location the touch potential and step potential, okay, touch potential and step potential, these are within the specified limits, and consumption of electrode material is low. Okay, so I just give you an idea what is the touch potential and step potential. This touch potential is that if there is some grounded object which is energized, okay, and a person is coming in contact with it, right? So the potential developed across the body of that particular person standing on the ground, okay, that is called as touch potential, and it should not exceed a certain specified limit in order to have a safety of the personnel. And similarly, the step potential. The step potential is the potential difference developed between the two steps of a person who is standing on the ground, and ground is carrying and ground is energized. There is a DC current flowing through the ground. If a person is standing above the ground, maybe above the dry surface, there is some initial layer of the ground which is insulated, so it's a dry one. Okay, so potential developed across the two steps of a particular person, that is a step potential. Okay, so while designing the earth electrodes, these points are to be considered at the place of installation and wherever the earth current flows. Okay? And the material for the earth electrode should be chosen such that the consumption of electrode is low enough. Low enough. So generally, the graphite is used instead of some iron or steel in order to minimize the consumption of earth electrode material, right? Now we come to the important terms and definitions. The first and foremost definition is with respect to the earth electrode itself. We are going to define, right? Just a minute. the earth electrode. Okay, earth electrode is basically defined as an array of conducting elements placed in the earth or sea that provides low resistance path between the DC circuits and the earth, and is capable of carrying continuous current over extended period of time. So very important, right? It is an array of conducting elements, which provides low resistance path between which two elements? DC circuit and the earth. Because current will be supplied by the rectifier to the earth, and from earth it will go to the inverter. So low resistance between DC circuit and the earth. So this electrode will connect the circuit with the earth, and it is in the form of conducting element, array of conducting element. We are going to see the constructional details and other things in order to have a clarity of what is the earth electrode, how it is constructed, and how it is used. Okay. Next. Now these are some basic definitions we will go through quickly. Anode for the earth electrode, an electrode through which direct current enters the earth. That terminal is called as anode, right? And from where it returns from the earth to the DC circuit, that is called as a cathode. Okay. Anode and cathode. Anode, it supplies current to the earth, and cathode collects the current from the earth. Next, very important aspect is with respect to the earth electrode line. Okay, what is an earth electrode line? As we have realized that the problem of corrosion due to the flow of DC current can be minimized by installing earth electrode 5 to 10 kilometers away from the substation, right? So we have to carry the earth current all the way up to 5 to 10 kilometers. So that job is done using earth electrode line. It is an insulated conducting path between HVDC substation and the earth electrode, because earth electrode is installed at some distance from the substation to minimize corrosion. So this is a separate line with lesser insulation level, as it is just carrying an earth current, okay, and with a lesser insulation level of the order of 100 kV BIL, okay. So that is basic insulation level. That separate line for carrying current from substation to the location of earth electrode, that is the electrode line. Okay. Next, then we come across something which we all know. We should not confuse earth electrode and earth return with the station earth. Okay, what is the station earth? So station earth is what we experience when we visit any substation. When we visit any substation, what we come across is basically the station earth. So station earth is actually array of conducting elements, right? Which provides connection between, yes, the earth parts and substation equipment. So this is a typical earthing, right? This particular thing, this definition, station earth, this is altogether different from the earth electrode and earth return. Rather, it is on station earth. It's a typical earthing which is used in domestic premises, substations. Okay, there are earth pits, and all parts of the substation equipments, that is other than the line conductors, right, which require earthing and which are to be insulated, right, and so between the earth parts and the substation equipments, isn't it? So the building structure is the lightning arresters, these are also connected to the earth, isn't it? So this is station earth. It's an array of elements, right, which provides protection against the short circuits and it, okay, protection. Station earth, typical earthing, that is what we study. Okay. Right. So now we are going to check with the objectives of design of earth electrode and its location. Certain objectives are set. We know that earth return and earth electrode, it provides some advantages and some limitations. The limitations can be overcome by taking some remedial measures, right? Then what is the best design for the earth electrode? How to go for setting up the objectives of design of electrode and its location, right? So first and foremost, the design objective for the earth electrode is a low current density at the surface of earth electrode. Okay, low current density at the surface of the earth electrode. Current should not flow from the surface of the earth electrode. Rather, it must flow through the complete cross section. Current density should be low. If current density is high, so it's a very sensitive matter, that since current is flowing through the earth, so current density is high at the surface, it will cause heating of the earth crust, and naturally the soil will get dried easily, and then the resistivity will decrease. So low current density, that is the first point. Secondly, the temperature rise of the electrode and other electric parts, that is the conducting parts, should be within the permissible limits. Temperature rise should not exceed. So these limits are defined through experimentation, continuous experimentation and observations for a given load condition, and so also for a given soil and other conditions, presence, thermal resistivity, and electrical resistivity of the soil. And next, the step potential on the ground above the earth electrode should be within the safe limit. That is what we mentioned during the remedial measure. Step potential. Similarly, the touch potential should be within the specified limit, and low resistance of the earth electrode, right? Remember that whatever material we use as a earth electrode for connecting a DC circuit with the earth surface or the earth current, okay, earth, in order to make DC current to flow through the earth. So low resistance, the electrode itself should have a low resistance, and similarly low voltage drop across it. The voltage drop across the electrode itself should be as small as possible in order to have an effective flow of current through the earth, right? And there should be minimum risk of electrolytic corrosion. Minimum risk of electrolytic corrosion. So these are the design objectives that are set as far as electrode and its locations are concerned, right? Low current density, minimum temperature rise, step potential within step limit, low resistance of earth electrode, and minimum risk of electrolytic corrosion. Keeping these objectives in our mind, let us move ahead further. Okay. Now we come to yet another important aspect of earth electrode design, and that is choice of proper electrode site. We have mentioned that we would like to install the earth electrodes far away from the main substation, right? But what must be the correct place where they can be installed in order to carry the ground current? Okay, so observe carefully the first and foremost point, choice of correct electrode site. There must be adequate area of land. There must be adequate area of land having low electrical and thermal resistivity soil available wherever we want to install the electrodes. So generally, if you will realize at a later stage that the electrodes which are supposed to carry thousands of amperes of current, direct current through the earth, their size is quite large because of the electrode material consumption and because of the size of the earth and the level of current that we would like to make to flow. So adequate area, a large area is required for installing the electrodes which will carry the DC current, right? And that too, it should have low thermal and electrical resistivity. If resistivity is more, then naturally direct current flow through the ground will not be a good proposition. Okay. Next is, we have to ensure that wherever there is an electrode site, there is an ample supply of moisture, and that too it must be natural, maybe through the natural source, like some sort of a lake, or maybe a pond, or some river side or something like that. Okay, as the current flows through the soil, right, the earth electrode has a tendency, right, to dry up. करंट फ्लो की वजह से क्या होगा, थोड़ी सी हीट तो प्रोड्यूस होती है, so it will has a tendency to dry. Okay, naturally there should be some natural supply of moisture present at the electrode site. That is the next aspect. And third point we come to is that the earth electrode should be located at a safe distance. From safe distance from what places? The various, from the converter substation, from other substation, power plants, right? Then from any buried pipelines, railway tracks, densely populated urban areas, all these, the substation should be away from this, because wherever there is a population or some construction, right, it is always made up of some or the other iron or metal structure, steel structure. Okay, it will get corroded and it will be dangerous for such structures to be within that distance, right? So naturally, there are standards, maybe 5 to 25 kilometers, we can say, is mentioned. Okay, so earlier also 5 to 10 kilometers nowadays it is a practiced. Okay, the next point in the choice of electrode site, okay, is the accessibility and the maintenance of electrode. Wherever we install the earth electrode, it should be accessible, that maybe we should be able to carry the electrodes to that place through the road or through proper transport, and we should be able to dig it out, I mean install, okay, and replace for maintenance, or maybe for the testing purpose. So the place must be accessible, and maintenance of electrode should be easy. Okay, so that is what the idea. Next point, as far as the choice of electrode site is concerned, is the mapping of buried metallic objects, right? Mapping of buried metallic objects. That is, wherever we install, although as per our information, we may be knowing that at particular place there is no substation, there is no power station, there is no population, no nothing is residing, but still mapping of buried metallic objects is required. Remember, something that is not visible to the eyes, what is buried inside the ground, where we want to install the earth electrode. So various objects that require careful mapping of the earth, okay, objects which are buried inside the earth, that is maybe cables, pipelines, railway tracks. Okay, railway tracks, of course, they are visible. Okay, the steel structure, harbor works, storage tanks, steel tower footings, and substation earthing. All these things have to be checked for their presence. If they are present, naturally the earth electrode cannot be installed near this, otherwise they will get corroded. Okay, so these are the various points related to the choice of earth electrode site.